Hi and welcome to my most anticipated games of 2025 video. I'll be detailing games that I'm looking forward to the most that are confirmed or in some cases speculated to be releasing in 2025. Now it's been a while since I've done any YouTube videos. I wasn't planning on coming back to make videos at any point soon really, but thought it'd be fun to do a one-off video. Maybe I'll do more again, not really sure. I'll just have to see how this goes. Anyway, on to the main subject of the video. This list will be in release date order, with games that have confirmed release dates coming first, and then moving on to games with less certain or to be announced dates coming later down the list. I will also be doing an Honourable Mentions list after I've covered my most anticipated games for the year. So that's similar to last year. There are 3 returning games from last year's most anticipated video across the 2 lists, as these didn't end up releasing in 2024. So anyway, let's get into the main list. These are my most anticipated games of 2025. First up, we have Kingdome Come Deliverance 2, sequel to one of my favourite games. Before its reveal, it was known to be in development, so I wasn't too surprised when it was finally revealed. Just very excited to finally get the confirmation. As with the first game, KCD 2 is set in Bohemia in the late Middle Ages, more specifically the early 15th century. The story takes place sometime after the events of the first game. You're still in control of Henry and will basically continue his story. As laid out in the first game, there is a growing sort of turmoil and increasing conflict between the various nobles of the time as they vie for power. Power, religion, palace, and political intrigue, it's all present in the era and setting of KCD 2. Like the first game, it is an open-world, first-person RPG with some life sim elements, and with a focus on realism when it comes to general gameplay and the world. Combat involves the use of swords, maces, axes, bows, crossbows, and a new addition, early guns. I suspect improving Henry's skills in each weapon category, as well as other skills like stealth and things, will be a substantial part of combat and how effective you are at it, as was mostly the case with KCD 1. So if you got into combat with a sword and you weren't that skilled using it, you'd generally have a pretty bad time and end up likely being killed. In the new game, you will be undertaking, similar to the first game, a number of main and side quests. Alongside these, I'm assuming side activities such as hunting, thieving, bandit camps, dice, tournaments, and the likes will return from the first game. It does seem like there will be more stuff to do in the world compared to the first game, which is great because that game already had a ton to do. Although the amount of content might seem a bit overwhelming, but I enjoyed most of the quests and side stuff in the first game. So for me, this is generally a good thing if it's all fleshed out well. Also, with KCD 2, we have an increased map size. Because of this, I suspect there will be certainly be a significant amount more to do. KCD 1 had quite a large map. Actually, it wasn't crazy big, but a good size, especially for a game where you mostly travel by foot or on horseback. So this next game has a world roughly twice the size, which sounds great. Although it is separated into 2 maps. I believe one is slightly smaller than the first game's map, and the other is slightly bigger. One map will be set in an area known as the Bohemian Paradise, a more rural map with forests, fields, likely smaller settlements and the likes, while the other will be set in and around the Czech city of Kutnohora, I believe it's pronounced, not really sure, called by its German name in-game, Kuttenberg. So as with the first game, you'll be visiting real-life locales and real-life regions. The game looks very nice graphically, as did KCD 1 for the time, and still looks great. And makes use of Crytek's CryEngine. Given a lot of developers are moving to UE5, it's nice to see some sticking with other engines like CryEngine to develop their games, as is the case for this game, and the first one was also CryEngine. But from what has been showcased of the game, it's looking very nice, especially the forested areas, which were also very impressive in its predecessor. I expect the villages and main city will also be very detailed, not just graphically, but also population and density wise. So it's likely going to be a rather demanding game, certainly if you crank the settings up. So can't wait to see how this turns out. Warhorse did a great job with the first game. So my hopes are high for Kingdome Come Deliverance 2. The game does have a confirmed release date, and it is set to release on the 4th of February, so fairly soon, just a month or so away. The second game on this list is Sid Meier's Civilization 7. As a fan of the Civ games since first playing Civ 4, I have an interest in new games in the series, even though number 4 is still mostly my favourite. I've played nearly all of the mainline Civilization games. The only ones I haven't are the first two, and a couple of years ago I finally got around to playing Civ 6, so many years after that came out. I was a bit unsure I'd like it, but after playing it, I found myself enjoying Civ 6, which has increased my interest in this upcoming 7th mainline game. I think if I hadn't played Civ 6 and really ended up liking it, then this would have likely been moved to the Honourable Mentions list. But yeah, instead it's on the main list. So story-wise, you kind of make up your own, given that it's a strategy game. There is some flavour when it comes to picking your country/leader, but it seems like, as in previous games, the story is mostly non-existent. So Civ 7, like its predecessors, is a 4X turn-based strategy game. I wouldn't consider it grand strategy as the Civ games. They're not on the same scale or complexity as Paradox grand strategy games like Europa Universalis or Hearts of Iron 4. Nonetheless, they are very good strategy games, and while the scale isn't quite Paradox level, the game maps can be very large and full of civilizations, with the gameplay itself being very tweakable to your liking. Like Civ 6 and 5 before it, the game looks to be using a hex-based map system for cities, units, workers, etc., which has worked well since number 5. So yeah, that's fine by me that they've continued with that. One thing I like about Civ 4 is the ability to stack units on one tile and create large armies, but the hex-based single unit tile system is good too and adds more strategy to warfare. Because of this, you'll need to be more strategic when placing units, like in the case of anti-air unit positioning to provide cover for your units, or archers and artillery being able to fire over your units to hit enemy units or cities within range. It also seems like there will be more unit variety when compared to previous base games anyway. One of the screenshots, you can see a Sherman and T-34. In previous games, certain countries had unique units and buildings only they could use, while other countries would have the generic version of, say, a tank or swordsman. So yeah, this might confirm, because it's two tanks from a similar time period, more unique vehicles maybe per country, or it could just simply be model and skin variations on like a generic tank stat-wise. As for the game worlds, as I spoke of, they can be very large and usually very varied. Civ games come with many different maps to choose from, including modern Earth and Earth-based ones, as well as more random, like fictional continents and ocean-focused ones. And as you'll probably be spending, probably around 99% of the time looking at the map, it's good to see that the game graphically looks nice, kind of like Civ 6, but enhanced. Also with a similar nice art design to that game. As for release date, Civ 7 should be releasing on the 11th of February. February is looking to be a pretty packed month for game releases, especially really big ones. Now onto the third game. This one was in my main list last year, though we only had its code name back then, but it was anyway delayed to 2025. The game is Assassin's Creed Shadows. I've not played all of the Assassin's Creed games. I've played the first two and a couple others, with Origins being the one I've played most of. I've been meaning to play Odyssey and Valhalla, but I've heard they are a huge game, so I've kind of held off playing them, mostly because I don't really feel like spending potentially hundreds of hours playing through them at this moment. The feeling I get is that Shadows might be more in line with Origins when it comes to scale, at least for map size, but maybe content-wise also, which I feel would be more manageable. As for the story and setting, we're finally getting an AC game set in feudal or medieval Japan, specifically during the Sengoku period, an era which is covered so much in popular culture and romanticised about, mostly due to its association with the samurai and also the ninja and shinobi, or ninja/shinobi. You'll be playing as either Naoe, I'm guessing it's pronounced, who is a ninja, or Yasuke, who is a samurai. I know there's a lot of debate surrounding Yasuke and whether he was real or should even be in the game, but I'm not getting into that here. I'm simply going to wait and see how the game is received, and then, likely play it myself. Unless it gets really terrible reviews, then I'll likely skip it, but hopefully not. I think, that's the important point. Is the game going to be any good? I guess we won't know until it's out. But definitely will be pre-ordering it. Anyway, AC Shadows is, as you probably know, an action-adventure stealth game, likely with light RPG elements thrown in, similar to the more recent previous games like Origins. So if you played an AC game, you probably know, especially in the newer ones, know the drill when it comes to gameplay. The experience with Naue is probably going to involve a lot more stealth, and with Yasuke, more brawler type combat. They've shown off some of both sides of the coin in gameplay reveals, and it looks fine. I'm not much, much more for the stealth approach than the brawler approach, however. It seems to be confirmed that you'll be able to dynamically swap between the protagonists, and I don't know about anyone else, but I'd rather play a ninja than a samurai in an AC game, so I'm likely going to be playing as Naue the vast majority of the time. I could see it getting irritating, however, if it, say, forces you to play one character over the other due to story reasons or something else. As for the world and map, it's set in one of the most requested time periods and locations for an AC game, as I mentioned, Sengoku period Japan. Thus, hopefully, we will get period-accurate regions, architecture, including the castles and the natural environments, all that sort of stuff. The little we've seen, though, so far looks pretty good. It's also been revealed that there will be seasonal changes in the world. So in winter, there will be snow, frozen lakes, ponds, all that stuff. And in summer, open green fields and so on. Graphically as well, it's looking good, looking fine. Maybe similar to AC Mirage, but with a feudal Japanese aesthetic and maybe some enhancements over Mirage graphically. But a lot of this sounds good. But given Ubisoft's track record the last couple of years, I am concerned that the game is just going to be another mediocre AAA release. I want it to be good because we've finally got the setting we've wanted, and it would really annoy me if Ubisoft effed this up. I just have very little faith in Ubisoft anymore. And given the precarious position the company is in right now, if Shadows doesn't do too well, it's going to be probably really bad for them. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But hopefully it's good. But my hopes certainly aren't too high. Release-wise, AC Shadows is, bar any more delays, releasing on the 14th of February. Moving on. Next up, we have an upcoming Sims competitor. I'm glad The Sims is finally getting more competition, given EA has resigned itself to seemingly releasing an infinite amount of DLCs for The Sims 4 and turning it into a live service game instead of making a new game. And Sims 5 was basically cancelled not long ago, I believe. So they're just going to continue doing stuff for Sims 4. But anyway, get back to the list. This next game is inZOI. And as a fan of the Sims games, I've been wanting some competition, and it seems inZOI will be the first of a few upcoming live sim games, the others in question being Paralives and Viva Land. There was a fourth one, Life by You, but that got Paradox. I believe it was Paradox. They cancelled that a while ago. As with The Sims, players of inZOI will be able to craft their own narrative and stories depending on choices they make, such as gender, age, career, and life goals, among other things. So this is another game where you make up your own story as you play. You probably already guessed, but this is a life sim game. I guess you could define it as a social life sim as well. If you played any of the Sims games, you'll know what this game entails, although it does have some differences. It's not just copying The Sims straight up. So as with The Sims, and of games of the genre, there'll be character creation, character needs and wants, building and buying homes, social interactions, careers, education, and skills, and a multitude of other things to do. There's always a lot to do in these type of games. The character creation actually looks very impressive, not just because of the detailed characters, which, they look pretty good, but because of the variety of customization. Just by looking at the screenshots on the game's Steam page, you can see there's a lot of variety and character creation options. That side of things looking really great, actually. Once you've created your character, there's usually a lot of things you can do in these games, as I touched upon. The main objectives are usually to find a career, get into relationships and friendships and things, and explore and do things in the game world. It seems that there are three main ways to play the game. As a character, this is one of them. As a character you've created doing the regular Sims type stuff, or another one is as an intern of an in-game company who manages the game's neighborhood of virtual people and its world karma. It's interesting to see how that works and fits into the gameplay. And the third, finally, you can use the game's city edit mode. I assume to create, edit, and manage things in the world like buildings, households, shops, parks, etc. So yeah, that sounds rather impressive. I just hope they can pull it all off. It sounds like a lot is going to be happening in game, and it will have plenty of content and variation to its gameplay elements. But yeah, it would be very interesting to see how those three ways to play the game, how they sort of mix together and how they slot together, whether you can just play each one separately or you have to do a bit of all of them for the main sort of gameplay. I'm not really sure. There's also mention of extensive modding support, so that's another positive. Always great when a developer says they're going to support mods and mod tools heavily. As with The Sims, there are various maps / neighborhoods and worlds that will feature in the game. The three in this game, there's three separate open worlds. I guess at release they might release more later. First one is Dowon, a dense world inspired by South Korean capital Seoul. Another Bliss Bay, inspired by Los Angeles. And finally Kahea, inspired by, quote, Indonesian holiday destinations. Graphically, inZOI looks really nice, though it's in Unreal Engine 5, so I'd expect it to be quite demanding. Hopefully not too demanding though. It does look very dense, like a lot is packed into the game, which will increase that demand on hardware. But it looks good, graphics-wise and aesthetically. And yeah, it's going for a realistic look, but does have its own modern art style. I'm really looking forward to this. I just really want the Sim compared to The Sims, so I'm hoping inZOI is a great game and does well. I like The Sims, although I feel we need more life sim games. Not just for competition, that's probably the big positive of it, but for variety and to spice things up a bit. But yeah, anyway, after being delayed to 2025, inZOI now has a set release date of the 28th of March. Moving on, this next game is the final one with a confirmed release date in the main list, and it is Tempest Rising. A game that was in my honourable mentions in last year's most anticipated video. But yeah, obviously didn't release last year, so here it is in this year's video. Tempest Rising is an RTS, a real-time strategy game, with similarities to the likes of Command & Conquer and Supreme Commander. The game is set 34 years after a scenario where the Cuban Missile Crisis turned the Cold War hot. This left large portions of the Earth irradiated. In the story campaigns, you take control of either the Global Defense Force, GDF, or the Tempest Dynasty. There was also a third multiplayer-only faction. The GDF and Tempest Dynasty will be competing to control the Earth, as well as a new energy source called, quote, Tempest. As Tempest Rising is an RTS, you can likely expect gameplay to be quite similar to others of its genre, such as the aforementioned ones, including gameplay elements such as base building, resource collecting, and constructing units and armies to do battle with your enemies. Each faction will also have a distinct approach to economy and combat. This should alter your strategy and add more variety when it comes to playing each of the three factions. For example, there will be 3 unique unit rosters for the 3 respective factions. As a big fan of the older Command & Conquer games, as well as Supreme Commander, I'm looking forward to seeing how Tempest Rising plays. I've not played many more modern RTS games, so I'm hoping this game will be more similar to the previously mentioned ones that I enjoy, but with a more modern spin and style to it. Gameplay looks more similar to something like Command & Conquer Generals than SupCom, but it does have a near-futuristic look, just more grounded in modern day rather than far future. It does look as though you can zoom in quite close to the battle map, so you can get up and close to the action if you want, like, basically at troop level, which looks cool. Going by the gameplay shown thus far, the combat looks quite action-filled and maybe a bit faster paced than Command & Conquer or Subcom. Or action and pace-wise, it kind of reminds me of Dawn of War, like Soulstorm, but with more going on. And yeah, I'm not too good at playing RTS games really fast. I like building up bases and units in my own time, but this certainly looks manageable. So as someone who plays them more casually and slow paced, yeah, looks fine. As for maps and world design, it looks like to be a good variety, with forests, snow, hilly and urban maps among others. I just hope there are maps of various size, especially quite sizable ones, as I've always liked large RTS maps like those in Supreme Commander. The graphics and art style of Tempest Rising's looking rather nice. As I touched on briefly, it's going for a near future sort of look with a lot of a lot going on screen with regard to effects and things. It's another Unreal 5 game, so expect it to be demanding. Whether that's justified or not, we'll just have to see. But yeah, it's looking nice. It would be interesting to see how an RTS game made in UE5 performs and plays, as I don't think there are many of them. This might be the first big one that I can think of. So yeah, that would be interesting. Tempest Rising is confirmed to be releasing on April 24th, so a little under 4 months left. Yeah, looking forward to how this new RTS ends up. Turning out. Now, for the long-awaited next Gears game, Gears of War E-Day. I got into the Gears of War games quite late, actually. I had seen and played the older ones briefly years ago, around the sort of 360 era. At that time, I'd never really thought much of them. That was until playing through the first game about 2 years ago. I enjoyed it a lot and decided to play all of them, starting with that first game and ending with Gears 5. Back to back I played them. So yeah, very, very much look forward to E-Day as a new fan of the series. Story-wise, E-Day is set before the events of the first game, 14 years before to be more precise. And although the first game is quite old at this point, I know some people don't like spoilers, so maybe skip 20 or so seconds if you're concerned about any sort of spoiler stuff. But games have been out. I think a lot of people probably know the stories of them now, so yeah, because they're just fairly old at this point. But yeah, anyway, E-Day stands for Emergence Day, the day when the main antagonist, the Locust, emerged from the planet's interior and began to wage war on the humans of the surface. So Gears of War E-Day is basically a prequel. Marcus Phoenix and Dominic Santiago will be the main protagonists of E-Day, likely both as playable characters / companions. And I suspect there will also be more characters returning from the older games, maybe as cameos or as AI companions. Would be pretty cool to see Cole and some of the others return. But I'm not entirely sure what all of them were doing at this sort of period. I think it's going to be rather interesting seeing how things unfolded on Emergence Day and how Mark and Dom became so close. I think with a focus on their relationship. And with the events of the game unfolding over a number of days, there will be probably a lot covered story-wise, detailing everything that happened, the stuff those two did during the events of the Emergence Day. Onto the gameplay side of things, Gears of War E-Day, similar to its predecessors, will most likely be a third-person shooter, cover-based, with a lot of action and with vehicular combat to some degree. There's also talk of it featuring more horror elements. I know there's some of that in the other games, but yeah, that'll be cool to see. I'd expect most enemy encounters to involve brutal sort of combat against overwhelming odds and require the player to make use of all the weapons and equipment at their disposal. If you played the previous games, especially the older ones, you'll probably be very familiar with the weaponry of this game, like the Lancer, which is confirmed to be in Gears E-Day. As for the world, not much has been shown thus far, but I think it would be very urban-based, so a lot of close-quarters combat, moving between streets, buildings, facilities, maybe sewers, rooftops, etc., all that stuff. Possibly similar to the first 3 games, but on a larger, more detailed scale. I don't think they're going to be more open world like 5 was a bit more open world, I believe, from what I can remember playing it, but not entirely open world. But yeah, I suspect it's going to be like similar to the first 3, maybe with bits from 4 and maybe 5 as well into the within the game. And similarly, graphically, not much has been shown other than a pre-rendered trailer, which, yeah, looks pretty good, but obviously pre-rendered, so not really representative of the game. But yeah, as of all, I believe all previous games, it'll be using Unreal Engine, specifically Unreal 5. Probably, again, going to look great, but be demanding. As for a release date, we don't have a confirmation one. It seems possibly a time frame of Q3 or 4, 2025, with some outlets speculating late 2025. Right, so next up we have what is going to be easily the biggest release in next year, probably one of the biggest releases of all time, GTA 6. Yeah, whenever there's a new GTA, it's quite a huge event. And I think this time around even more so with GTA 6, given that it's been the biggest gap release-wise for a new GTA game. From San Andreas to GTA 4 was around 4 years. From GTA 4 to GTA 5 was 5 years, I believe. And 5 to 6, bar any delays, will be around 12 years, which is pretty wild, actually. There's, so much hype built up for this game. It's really crazy. As someone who usually tempers my hype, I'm even finding myself wanting Rockstar to release more info regarding the game. I can't wait to finally get a gameplay footage trailer or something. I just really want to see what this game looks and plays like, not just how it looks from like the trailer they've released so far, which was good, but it would be nice if they start showing off more stuff of the game. It'll be so interesting to see what Rockstar's cooked up for this game. It's been so long, my expectations are pretty high. So far, we've only had that first trailer for the game, which showed the primary setting, world, and some of the basis for the story. The story seems to mainly revolve around the two protagonists, Lucia and her boyfriend Jason, who are a criminal duo, with Lucia being imprisoned prior or maybe partly during the events of the game. Not much else is known, though it seemed likely that they will both be committing crimes for some reason or another, maybe as a way to pay off a debt or for some other story or other related reason. GTA 6 will take place in the fictional US state of Leonida. That's based on the real US state of Florida. And we're going to make a return to Vice City based on the real world city of Miami. I think a lot of people have been wanting a return to Vice City, as do I. So that's a big positive for me. As with the majority of the previous Grand Theft Auto games, GTA 6 will be an open world action adventure game with the ability to be able to swap. Likely, I would imagine they would include this between first and third person perspectives, as GTA 5 had it when it transitioned to newer console and PC generations. I suspect we'll see a character swapping system similar to GTA 5, although that hasn't been revealed as of yet. But given the dual protagonists, I would imagine it will make a return. I could see it being locked maybe behind a certain point in the story, but we don't really know anything about that yet. The main gameplay is almost certainly going to involve crime-based main and side missions where you plan heists like run and gun, steal vehicles, earn cash, escape police, and do any of the sort of number of other things you could do in previous GTA games. Alongside the main and side missions, we're probably going to be getting a lot of other activities, jobs and side content things to do. I'm expecting racing and vehicle modification to feature, as well as random encounters and all sorts of wild things happening as you travel through the game world. As the game is going to be set in a virtual representation of Florida, you can expect a number of locales, including urban areas, cities, towns, and the likes. Waterfront areas like beaches will likely feature quite prominently, and more rural areas, including woodland and forested areas, as well as swampy Everglade-esque areas. Most of these environments were showcased in the first trailer. The swamp areas, I think, would be really interesting. I'd imagine a lot of missions will involve traversing through them. I could see them being quite dangerous and quite cool to sort of go through. I don't think there's really been that type of area in a GTA game before. I know in Red Dead there's swamps and things, but it'd be cool to see how it works out with a modern setting. From what we've seen so far, the game world is going to be very detailed and on a scale greater than any previous GTA game. The trailer showed a lot was going on in the world. The urban and beach areas were full of NPCs. Whether they can keep that sort of density in the actual game will have to be seen, but it looks good. Graphics-wise, given the trailer was in-engine, if they keep the game looking how it does look there, it's going to be a very impressive looking game. I wouldn't be surprised if they tone it down a bit for the actual game, but I guess you never know. I'm hoping it is representative of the actual in-game quality. That would, be genuinely pretty incredible. If Rockstar pulls the look and feel off that we got in the first trailer in the actual game and have it running well, that would, be something crazy. Let's hope it runs well and is optimized. You never know these days. As for release date, nothing is confirmed, although Rockstar did reveal it as coming in 2025, with most reporting pointing to late 2025, so likely sometime in Q4. I could probably see maybe like a sometime in November release time, I would think. And as with GTA 5, it's sounded like a console release will be coming first. So PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and followed by PC probably the following year, if GTA 5's anything to go by. Moving away from GTA, we have a big sequel, that being Ghost of Yōtei, or Yotei, I'm not really sure. This isn't a direct sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, but a standalone one set a few centuries later. I haven't played Tsushima yet, so wasn't sure whether to include Yotei, but I decided to, just because of how good the previous looks and how much I like the setting. I'm thinking of playing Tsushima fairly soonish, so if I don't enjoy it, then I messed up including this on the list, but everything about the game looks great, so I'd be surprised if I don't like it. Anyway, as for Ghost of Yotei, as I briefly touched on, it's set a few centuries after Tsushima, during a similar time as AC Shadows, but a bit later. The actual setting is on the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido, in the area around the game's titular mountain, Mount Yōtei. So, like Tsushima and Shadows, we have another game with a feudal Japanese setting, which is pretty awesome, and that'll be two of those in the same year. Although, if I was having to bet on which game would probably end up being better, I would bet on Yotei, given Ubisoft's track record the past couple of years. Anyway, you would take control of Atsu, a female warrior who becomes, quote, the ghost. Apparently the story is one based on, quote, vengeance, although we really don't have much else to go on at this point in time. Additionally, going by the review trailer, it seems as though Atsu has a wolf companion. Like Ghost of Tsushima, Yotei is an open-world, third-person action adventure game, and one which will likely incorporate a lot of stealth, your playstyle dependent. So the main combat gameplay will feature sword fighting, samurai style, specifically with katanas, or ninja style assassination, depending on how you want to play. You're likely going to participate in one-on-one sword duels, as well as combating larger numbers of enemies. It sounds like bows will also make a return in Yotei, giving you another head-on option or another one for stealth kills. The addition of another ranged weapon type, guns or firearms, will also be a thing. And it seems like they will be in the form of matchlock muskets, likely not a good idea if you want to keep a low profile. As for the world design, being set in feudal Japan means it will likely share a number of similarities with Tsushima, although with different environments given that Hokkaido is further north than Tsushima and a larger island landmass. I could certainly see the architectural side of things being somewhat similar with the Japanese castles and such, but with the open world being more mountainous, and with perhaps less coastal biomes, due to this new map being set on, I assume, one giant island as opposed to a few smaller ones, but obviously I could be wrong. The trailer does detail a number of different looking locations, so expect a variety of areas to explore as you traverse the map. But yeah, it would be nice to get an actual gameplay reveal of some of the regions and things. Whether we'll get that anytime soon, I'm not really sure. Graphically, it's got a similar vibe and aesthetic to Tsushima, with a lot of contrasting use of colour. If the trailer is anything to go by, Yotei will have a very nice art design like the previous game. But yeah, as for the actual graphical fidelity, I expect it to be great too, given how good Tsushima also looked. I'm expecting Sucker Punch to really push the PS5 hardware of Yotei, and I believe it will only be on PS5, so unlike Tsushima, it will be specifically made for PS5 and PS5 hardware, I guess, obviously. Onto a release date. All we've got is the trailer noting 2025 towards the end, so not much other than that, not much confirmed. And bearing in mind we haven't seen much since that trailer, I wouldn't have thought it would be early on in the year, more than likely sometime in the second half of 2025. Now, the penultimate game of the main list is another sequel, Subnautica 2. This is the third game in the Subnautica series after Below Zero. I've played a fair bit of the original Subnautica, I really loved it. First time I played it was about a year ago. I played all the way through it. I'll get around to Below Zero at some point. I've heard it's really good, but not quite as good as the first game. But anyway, Subnautica 2 is set on a new world, as you may expect, where you are a pioneer traveling to a new planet, and as with the first game, something goes wrong, which means you end up marooned on a dangerous new world. The game looks to be a similar experience to the first game from a gameplay standpoint, being that it's still an open world or quote open water survival game, set mostly underwater with crafting, base building, exploration, and some horror elements. Considering how good the first game was, I'd be happy if they didn't change the formula too much. Subnautica really nailed it, though some changes would obviously be fine. So yeah, gameplay will likely be quite similar. The exploration, crafting, base building, survival loop of the first game was, really good. The base building was really nice. It was cool to have to build and manage an underwater base or bases. And exploring the underwater world was pretty awesome. Trying to survive encounters with dangerous creatures and keep an eye on your vitals, etc., could get pretty tense, but ended up being a lot of fun. Also, scanning and studying animals and plants, as well as resource gathering, was pretty fun too. And exploring like ruined things underwater, like ruined ships and stuff, that was pretty cool. In this new game, there's also going to be the ability to evolve your character's genetics. I assume by studying the flora and fauna to better adapt to the new harsh environment. Which, does sound cool. Be interested to see how that works in game and how it may affect gameplay. In the first game, every time you stepped out your base was like an adventure, really. Once you're able to construct submersibles, that only improved upon the exploration side of things. And I expect all these things that I've spoke of to return in Subnautica 2. For me, the first game had such a great gameplay loop. So as long as this sequel goes down a similar path, I can't see it going wrong, really. One additional thing on the gameplay front is that they're adding 4-player co-op to Subnautica 2. The first two games were solo only, though I think you could get multiplayer mods for them. This is probably the only complaint I hear about Subnautica is the lack of multiplayer support. As a result, Unknown Worlds adding this into the base game would be great for those who enjoy that. Onto the world design, going by screenshots shown thus far, Subnautica 2 looks to have the same sort of incredible underwater environments as the other two games, with many biomes being present for you to explore, filled with interesting animals, plants, and underwater landscapes. Yeah, the first game really does this really actually incredible when it comes to the all the underwater environments and things, and the variety and density of the map is really great if you like that sort of thing in games. Art design and graphics, like world design from the little that has been shown, looks similarly impressive, with an incredible aesthetic style and a very vibrant, colourful presentation in like the sea creatures and the plants and the rocks and all that sort of stuff. This is going to be another Unreal 5 game, which is a departure away from Unity as was used in the first two games. Doesn't look like the engine swap has caused a change in style, so that's good. Still is very much recognisable as a Subnautica game. Although it would have been interesting to see how an updated Unity engine Subnautica 2 would have looked. I guess, Unreal 5 is great for visuals, albeit with possible performance issues. The first game ran really well, so hopefully devs will pull off a great visual experience with a great performance as they did with the first game. I know the first game's getting a bit older now, but I never really had too many issues with it. I think it ran really great and obviously looked great. As for a release date, again, nothing is confirmed except at the end of the trailer, Early Access 2025 was revealed. I think this is going to be an early access game I jump into from the get-go. Maybe play around for a bit in it and then wait till it releases big updates and things and come back to it. And the final game from the main list is Under a Rock. As some may remember, this was in my main list last year as well and was my number one game on that list. It hurts to say we haven't got much more release date info this past year regarding Under a Rock, but we have got a load of nice looking screenshots from the devs Nordic Trolls. I wasn't sure whether to include Under a Rock again, as it was on the top of the list last year, but given only GTA 6 is of a similar hype level for me, it had to be on this list again. Every time I look at it, like the images the devs put out and video for this game, it makes me want it to play more and more. The premise and setting for Under Rock are very intriguing. You'll be playing as an early 19th century explorer who has found themselves marooned on a lost island, until now hidden from the outside world with a different evolutionary path. This enigmatic land is home to mysterious creatures, curious natives, lost ruins, and exotic biomes. As a fan of the Lost World genre in games, this type of premise sounds great. Kind of like a mix of Skull Island and Tomb Raider and the Lost World, those sort of things. Maybe a bit of Indiana Jones. Maybe even Jurassic Park. And yeah, Under Rock is an open world survival crafting game akin to like Conan Exiles and Enshrouded or Valheim. Although, unlike those, it is going to feature a procedural world to some degree. Whether it's the whole world or not, I'm not really sure. But yeah, if it executed well, that could be a really great experience. I feel especially so for this type of Lost World-esque setting, where like exploration and discovery and things are going to be a major part of the gameplay loop, I guess. Gameplay will revolve around the usual survival elements of resource gathering, crafting, base building, exploring, and surviving, among other things. You'll also be able to farm, fish, and hunt as expected from this type of game. And something else that's expected is multiplayer, so speed co-op with up to 10 players, which is more than I expected. Exploring is looking like a big positive of this game. Given the premise and procedural map, yeah, that's going to be quite prominent, I think, the exploration and stuff. From the bits the developers have shown to us, the base building looks really great, with the ability to create very detailed constructions out of a variety of building assets. That's another seemingly big thing about the game. The building looks really good. One nice addition to base building is, quote, ghost building, where you can plan out your future base before committing resources to its construction. So there'll be like a ghost outline, I assume, of the stuff you want to build, and then you decide whether to commit resources to it and then build it. And games like DayZ and some other games have got this, but yeah, the degree to which it has it does look pretty impressive. Yeah, I think it would end up being going to be pretty fun, like building outposts and having like a main base and building outposts and stuff like that around the map. I'm not sure how big the map is yet, but given its procedural, I'd imagine it was fairly sizable. In a similar fashion to Ark or Conan Exiles, you also be able to tame, breed, and ride a number of animals that you encounter while exploring the world. Creating your own personal menagerie sounds like a cool idea. I remember doing that sort of thing in Conan Exiles. But yeah, given all this, it feels like there's going to be a lot of content when the game fully releases. I'm not sure how much is going to be there with early access. You never know with early access games these days. But yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a lot going on. The world design for this game actually looks amazing. If everything comes together, the procedural generation, the biomes, the exploration, the exotic flora and fauna animals, plants, etc. This might just be one of the best worlds for any game I've played or seen. Yeah, it just looks that good to me. I'm so impressed by what Nordic Trolls have revealed of Under Rock so far. I really can't wait to see this world become playable and come to life and explore it. It looks really, really incredible. You probably already know what I'm going to say about this game graphically. To me, it looks amazing. It's not going for a totally realistic graphical look. It's got its own unique look, but sort of feels like a mix between something like Conan Exiles and like a Pixar, like high fidelity animated film. Looks good. The art design of the characters, creatures, the world and the plants, all of it are all looking great. Everything looks very vibrant and full of colour, so if you like that sort of thing, that's obviously great, like I do. The use of like contrast and shadows looks very impressive, whether day or night. The developers have shown off a number of day scenes, obviously, and as well as night stuff, which also looks really good. But yeah, all in all, Under Rock has a very nice art design and aesthetic. It's worth noting that this is another game where Unreal Engine 5 is powering the visuals, although as it's going for a more stylized approach, maybe it won't be quite as demanding as something with a more photorealistic look. But we'll just have to see. I'm really hoping it runs very well, but yeah, you never know. Release date expectations are rather speculative, as they were last year. It has no confirmed release date. I can only hope it releases into early access sometime in 2025. They have said they are going with the early access model. So, yeah, if not, then it will maybe return again on next year's list, maybe. But yeah, obviously, if the devs need more time, that's completely fine. I'd rather they didn't rush it out when it's not ready. Although I guess early access is sort of what that's about, to release something when it's not quite ready, to get feedback and things, but and to help fund development. But yeah, we'll just have to see when it releases how that all pans out. So that was my list of my most anticipated games that are coming out in 2025. Well, maybe 2025 in some cases. If I had to pick a most anticipated game for the list, I don't think I really could. What I could say is GTA 6 and Under a Rock are pretty neck and neck for me, ahead of the other games. But yeah, no real winner for me. As I mentioned earlier, I did want to cover some more games as well. These are the honourable mentions, games that I'm looking forward to, but that didn't make it into my top list for 2025. And as with the main list, some of these games have confirmed release dates, some announced for 2025 but no actual date, and some are more speculated to be releasing in 2025. That is, going by the most recent release news when I checked. Of the honourable mentions, we have 8 of them. First one is the next bunch of Tomb Raider remasters, Tomb Raider 4 to 6, so 4, 5, and 6 remastered. This is a continuation from the Tomb Raider 1 to 3 remastered that released in 2024. So yeah, that's cool to see them, that they're getting remastered as well. I think because the first batch of them seemed to do quite well. And that's meant to be coming out on the 14th of February. Then the second one is Monster Hunter Wilds. I've not played any of the Monster Hunter games, but I've got Worlds. I just haven't played it yet. But I was considering putting this in my main list because it does look really good. But considering I haven't played Monster Hunter Worlds, I've not really seen a lot about them. I didn't want to put it in my main list. I did actually play the open beta briefly for it, but it had a lot of issues when I was playing it. So Capcom have said that those issues are going to be solved for PC by release. So fingers crossed that happens. Because the gameplay wise, it felt pretty good, but it just had a number of performance issues and other things going on that I wasn't too impressed by. But I wouldn't go as far as saying that wouldn't be, it wouldn't ruin the experience. Just playing the open beta, because they can fix that by the release. And yeah, it's releasing end of February, 28th of February. So yeah, February is a pretty crazy month. Then next up we have 2 Point Museum. That's following on from 2 Point Hospital and Campus. It looks really cool. Sort of a continuation of those games, but you control a museum instead. So that's an interesting setting. Don't really see museums feature that much in video games, but I thought that would be like an interesting thing. Have to give that a go at some point. See reviews on release, see what it's like. Because I've heard really good things about the other 2 games. And 2 Point Museum, I think it should be releasing on March 4th of March. Then we have another game, Lost Legions. This is another open world survival crafting game where you are a Roman soldier that got sort of lost, I guess, part of one of the Lost Legions. I hadn't heard like anything of this game till like a few weeks ago, but it looks really cool. It has sort of a PAX Day sort of look to it a bit, but more of like an actual survival game rather than it being like an MMO. Yeah, it looks really interesting, unique setting, I guess. But it looks really cool. And that has no release date, but Q2 2025 is info I found on it. Its potential release date, and it wouldn't surprise me if it released into early access in 2025, I guess. Next one we have is Mafia: The Old Country. Not too much shown of this, but we got a trailer recently at the Game Awards. Looks pretty good. Obviously, not necessarily representative of the gameplay and the look, but it does look pretty good. Yeah, very interested in this. I guess it's sort of a prequel to the older Mafia games in some ways. So yeah, looks really cool. And will be I forgot to say, be set in Sicily, I believe, as opposed to the other games which are set in the US. That has when I checked, a speculated release Q3 or 4 of 2025. So yeah, be looking forward to that one. Next, we have another life Sims like game, and that's Paralives. So it looks pretty cool. Obviously, similar to I guess inZOI in The Sims, but has its own unique sort of very stylized art design. It looks really nice actually. And we'll have, yeah, all the staples like building your own house and creating your character or characters if you want more of a family. And yeah, it generally looks pretty good. It is definitely the style and design of it that makes me most intrigued by the game. It looks very nice. This is another to be announced game. It's just says 2025 on the Steam page, and yeah, likely early access at some point in 2025. And next we have The Precinct. This is like a sort of detective, crime, police, sim sandbox type game. A lot of things. It's like a top-down sort of view, like isometric-y, I guess. Like sort of twin stick shooter kind of vibe from it. But yeah, you basically, it's set in the 1980s and you go around the city, solving crimes and arresting criminals, all that sort of stuff that you'd sort of expect from a police simulator type game. There's actually a demo for it out at the moment. I might have to give that a go at some point. But yeah, it looks pretty good. They showed off quite a lot of it, actually. It does look pretty good. And release day wise, that is, yeah, all I could find was, as it says on the Steam page, 2025. And the final honourable mention is Anno 117 Pax Romana. So this is the latest Anno series game. Not played any of them, but they all look really good. Especially intrigued by this one because it's like a Roman setting, which is a setting I like in video games. So if you're into like Roman era gaming, a game set in that era, that might be interesting. Might be of interest to you, especially as like a sort of strategy simulation, city builder mix of all those sort of things, games. I think the other Annos have covered more, not necessarily modern, but not as far back as the Roman period. So it'd be cool to see how this game ends up being. It looks good graphically, looks very nice. So yeah, definitely be keeping an eye on this one. May play one of the Anno games. I think I've probably got one on Steam. May play one of the other ones before this one comes out. Just yeah, see if I end up enjoying them. Yeah, that was the honourable mentions done with. There are also 3 other games that were going to be placed in the first or second list, but I decided to cut them because we just haven't got enough info on them. These games, there's only 3. I'll cover them quickly. They might, albeit a tiny chance, of release in 2025. These are Light No Fire, which yeah might have a 2025 release date, and then we got Ark 2 and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. The last 2 were in my main list for 2024, but since then we have got little to no info on anything really related to these games, and that's why I decided not to include them. Out of the 3, I think Light No Fire is the most likely to release in 2025. The latest rumours suggest an end of 2025 release. The other 2, I'm really not sure. Ark 2 and Bloodlines 2 seem to have ongoing rocky development cycles. I'm really looking forward to those 2, but I'm getting a little concerned for them because we've barely heard anything except reports of troubled development, specifically more with Bloodlines 2. With Ark 2, we haven't really heard anything since they released the Ark remake in Unreal 5. But yeah, so that's the end of the video. Let me know what your most anticipated upcoming games are. I'll also be including a link to a GameSpot article detailing every upcoming game for 2025. Check that out if you're interested. I also list off all the upcoming games I detailed in this video in the description so that you can check them all out on your own. And also, you can check my 2024 most anticipated video if you want. Maybe there's a game on that list that you missed in 2024, and that will also be linked below. And yeah, I'll wrap this up. As I mentioned earlier, this is sort of a one-off video, as I'm not sure whether I'll be doing videos again anytime soon, but if you enjoyed it, yeah, that's great. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you would like. I can't promise anything, but I just, sort of thought this would be a fun video to do again a year on from the previous one. But yeah, anyway, and thanks for watching. And I'll catch you again in the future, maybe.